Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so good to see you. It is so good to be here with you to celebrate the magnificence and significance of God in, through, and as us, to celebrate this truth as one family, to embody unconditional love, to equip ourselves, our hearts and our minds to live our greatest lives, and of course to serve all creation. Let us begin as we always do with prayer. And I invite you here and now in this moment to just take a breath in. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose, out through your mouth, and affirm with me, I am here now.
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 Here in this present moment is the fullness of God, is the fullness of wisdom, is the fullness of power, is the fullness of love, is the fullness of joy, is the fullness of ease, is the fullness of grace, is the fullness of patience, is the fullness of abundance, because God is always right here, right now. God, this thing that I choose to call God, Mother, Father, God, neither comes nor goes, but is always ever present, ever available, because it is omnipresence. And so as I recognize and understand that God is here now, I know that God is divine substance. I know that God is creative intelligence. I know that it is the power that is back of, behind, and underneath all things. I know it is the one life, and that life is our life now, expressing in, through, and as us, because we are one with God. And one of God. We are God's good idea. We are the wave. God is the ocean. And so what God is in the large, we are expressing in the small. From this place of awareness, I now speak this word in faith, knowing that this time, this gathering, this weekend service is blessed. Knowing that this time, this gathering, this weekend service shall illuminate our hearts and our minds, shall expand our awareness, shall lift up our spirits on this day, in this time. I know this to be true because we have intentionally gathered to expand our hearts and our minds. We have intentionally gathered to enliven ourselves. We have intentionally gathered to enlighten our hearts and our minds. We have intentionally gathered to leave here differently than when we walked in, no matter what state or condition we may be in this moment. So right here and right now, I rest and allow. I rest in this knowingness, and I allow God the good to be good in, through, and as this service, in, through, and as us. It is already done. So with joy and thanksgiving, I release this prayer. With gratitude, I release this prayer back into the law, which is always in operation. Thank you, God, in us, through us, and as us. And together we say, amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. So it must be. So it must be. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday. It is so good to be here with each and every one of you. There is a buzz and a sense of celebration happening over here throughout the service. You might actually hear some sound and celebration in the background. Here in New York City, it is Marathon Sunday,
yes,
for those of you who aren't in New York. And this is a mark of the city returning because the marathon was canceled last year due to the pandemic. And thankfully, the marathon is happening this year safely. And so we live on the marathon route.
Yes, we do.
It's a beautiful thing that we can look right out our window and see and hear the cheers and the music and watch folks receiving those cheers. And of course, living in the beautiful metaphor that the marathon represents. We, of course, are grateful and blessed to have a marathoner in our midst with Pastor Yolanda. She's a part of that profound elite club. I always remind her that no matter how many people actually complete the marathon, it's really a small percentage compared to the billions of people on the planet and who have lived and transitioned. And so watching those folks that have made that commitment, this race is a reflection of the commitment, right? The race is hard, right? And it takes you through some things, but there's a whole lot of running that had to happen to get you to that point. There's a whole lot of training. There's a whole lot of mental training that had to happen to get each and every runner to that point. So we are, again, just feeling that buzz and feeling that sense of celebration and gratitude.
Absolutely. And every time I look out that window and I see the wheelchair runners and I see those people who have decided in their mind that they will run and complete this race, I remember the time I looked out my window and said, I will do the New York City Marathon. There is such a beautiful energy and such inspiration out there every time on the route. And run easy, run in joy, everyone.
Yes, yes. So with that, again, just know you might hear some cheers and celebration.
Yeah, we didn't employ people to help us cheer through service today.
But with that, we want to extend a hello and a welcome to our first-time guests. We know that there may be just one today that's here for the very first time, and we're happy that you chose to hang out with us here at Celebration Spiritual Center to stream this service, to receive something, and then to celebrate, and praise, and pray, and all of the things that we do. And so we're happy that you chose to be here. If you'd like, of course, you can shout yourself out in the comments. Let us know where you're connecting in from. But more importantly, we would love to stay in touch with you. And so it's very easy to do that. You see the information here on your screen. Just text the word welcome to 347-472-1078. Just the word welcome, no additional messages, signatures, or emojis. Once you do that, you will receive an automated reply with a link. Click that link, which takes you to our digital connection card, enter your information, submit that information, and then you will receive a follow-up text saying that you're all set. If you don't see that follow-up text, that means that you're not locked in, you're not on our mailing list, and so we won't be able to communicate with you. But once you do, and you see that confirmation, then you will receive our weekly email on Friday and any other correspondence that we send out throughout the months. And so we're going to get into the announcements. And you'll see why you may want some of these things in your inbox, because it's easy to have something else to refer to without having to come back to the stream. But again, we're happy that you're here, and we are confident that you will receive exactly what it is that you came looking for.
Yes, yes.
So with that, let's get into our announcements for today. We are a church that believes in prayer. We talk about it often. We are a church that believes in prayer. We're a church that's founded in prayer. Before we open our doors, we were gathered in prayer with our launch team on a daily basis. And so we use that very same number that we established at that time, which established CSC. We use that same number for our Momentum Prayer Call, which happens every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You see the information here on your screen. Just dial in the number and the access code and wait for us to get started. We always share a reading on that day, and then we lead with a prayer. That prayer is recorded, so you can access that prayer at any time. And so the playback number that you see there on your screen, you could call in and listen to the most recent prayer, access that 24/7, which is something that I think is always wonderful and beneficial. So we encourage you to join us on Wednesday morning.
Absolutely. And that Wednesday morning is midweek. We call it prayer day, not hump day, but midweek espresso shot that guides you through the rest of your week or any time. Add it to your spiritual practice. Let it be the thing that you hear when you wake up in the mornings.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, we also know you may have a prayer request, and you can send your prayer request to chair champions at celebrationsc.org. That email will be received by our prayer champions, and it's also received by PY and myself. We are holding and knowing the truth with and for you, for your loved ones. Oftentimes, folks send in prayer requests for their family and friends, etc. Doesn't have to be for yourself. But we are. We look forward to those prayer requests coming in, and we hold the highest watch and know the truth with you. As we always say each and every week, when you send in that prayer request, see yourself releasing it. See yourself letting it go, casting it on the mind of God, not on the mind of the prayer champions, not on the mind of PY and myself. And know that you are making room for that prayer to be answered through you. Yes. We have the 2022 Jumpstart. Session 2 begins on November 18th, so there is still time for you to join. If you would like to set the intentions for your new year, starting now, starting early, which is the best time to do that, I encourage you to join me for the 2022 Jumpstart. It's a 4-week program. We're going to be using and studying deeply, as we do each and every year, the 30-day mental diet. And I will also be supporting you with visioning and some other tools to get clear about what it is that God is seeking to be and do through you in the new year, and to also release those things that actually may be standing in the way of you experiencing much success in your new year. If you have any questions about the class, feel free to reach out to me. I can answer any questions. But of course, you can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/register to register for the class. Again, registration is still open and will be open through Wednesday, November 17th. November 21st, the third Sunday, is God Talk Sunday. What is the God Talk? The God Talk is your opportunity. It is your opportunity to ask questions. Many times you hear things. We know that so often so many people are new to new thought, new to this metaphysical spirituality, and you may have lots of questions, particularly if you're coming from a traditional spiritual background and you're unlearning and then learning how to apply the new things that you're learning. Also, we know that many people simply just have questions about, how do I apply these principles? I know them to be true. I've learned them. I've practiced them. But now I've hit a challenge, and I'm looking for direction. I'm looking for some counsel. And so PY and I are here to support you in all of those things. It happens at 1 p.m. every third Sunday. This month is the 21st. And it happens on Zoom. And so you will need to be on our mailing list to get that link and password. It's in the weekly email that goes out every Friday. So to our first-time guests, again, this may be a reason that you want to join the mailing list so that you can be a part of the God Talk on the 21st. An announcement about Thanksgiving, as we always do. Thanksgiving weekend, we are closed. So the 21st will be our last Sunday this month, and the following Sunday we will be closed. We will not be streaming live. So please govern yourselves accordingly, but more importantly, enjoy your time, your holiday weekend, and enjoy your family and friends, however you're choosing to celebrate that time, however you're choosing to observe that time and that holiday weekend. Your Sunday is completely open. That's a beautiful thing. And with that, it is time for meditation.
It is definitely time for meditation as we celebrate this day, as we remember that there is much to be grateful for and in all things. We come to the awareness that sometimes there is challenge, but there is also truth. And so we bring our minds and our bodies and our experience to the truth. And for those of you who are out there, and this is your first time joining us, every Sunday we take time for meditation. As I like to say, you can have read all the spiritual texts that you want, memorize them line by line, but until you feel God alive within yourself, for yourself, it is just information. We must experience this connection to God and carry it with us and go back to it when we feel life is challenging. And so this month is all about accessing that place within us of all is well. It is not in the breath that is high up on the chest. It is a place dropped way down into the body where we elongate the breath and we move to that center of all is well. So that's our affirmative thought this month. All is well. As we move into the darker time of the year, nature knows that that season is temporary and all is well. In the midst of the darkness, in the midst of the light, all is well. So let's bring our practice, our meditative time, our energy, our connection to each other, to this space right here and now. Go ahead and look around the room. Notice, right where you are, that you are safe. And to signal the body more of its safety and to remind it of its safety, let's align it in the way that it was designed. Shoulders over hips, not leaning too far forward and not leaning too far backwards. Shoulders over hips, relax the palms down onto the tops of the thighs and allow those vertebrae to stack one on top of the other. Smooth, even, balanced line of energy flowing through your body. And let's drop the breath down, deep into the belly. And now, let's close the eyes, becoming more aware of our internal connection, of our breath, and of the fact that all is well. Just notice the breath right now, that it is flowing. One of the things that we can consciously control but automatically operates on our behalf. Let's just notice it now. Beautiful. As we notice the breath, we take in and incorporate the sounds around us. And we make it all part of our unified experience, because all is well. And now, let's take conscious control of the breath and send it way deep into the belly, the low belly. If you like, you can place your right hand on the low belly to just notice it more. And on the exhale, send the breath into the low belly. Inhaling there too. And noticing. A couple more rounds of noticing a deeper breath, a fuller breath. Beautiful. And now, inhale, and as you inhale, expand the low belly. The hand rises, the spine elongates. Hold it there for a count of 4. And exhale, sigh it out, count of 4. Again, inhale into the low belly. Many times we hold our stomach in. Society says we should. The body knows we need the room for breath. Expand the belly. Hold it there. And open the mouth, sigh it out, count of 4. Inhale into the low belly, now up through the rib cage, placing the right hand back down onto the thighs. Expanding the front and the sides and the back of the body. Maybe you've forgotten that air can extend into the lungs in a full way. Open the mouth and sigh it out, count to 4. Again, full breath, practicing. Inhaling, belly expands, ribs lift and expand. Hold it there. Now sigh it out. Inhale into the low belly, up through the rib cage, now up through the heart, connecting all 3 parts of the breath. feeling it across the chest, across the back. Hold it there. Now sigh it out. And without collapsing, inhale in and all the way up, creating a new set point, new reality, new experience of the divine, in, through, and as your breath and being. Hold it there. And relax the jaw, sigh it out. Let's practice full breathing in through the low belly all the way up through the heart. And when you reach the top, close the lips. Exhale through the nose. A few rounds of this deep breath. Each time we inhale, we fill our bodies up with all is well. And every time we exhale, we make room for more all is well. All is well in our breath. All is well in our bodies. All is well in our mind. All is well in our connection to the divine. Last round here. As we begin to slow the breath down, we tap into that place of peace. As we make more room for breath, we allow it to guide this experience deeper and deeper. Beautiful. Let's send this energy and focus into our feet. Maybe you wiggle the toes if you're seated upright in a chair on your sofa. Maybe you raise the heels and lower, taking any stress or tension off of the feet. Relax the feet now. Energy flows in through and up across the ankles. Relax the ankles. We place a lot of strain and stress on our shins and calves. Allow the energy to flow across the shins and the calves. Relax them now. We bend, we align, and we allow as the energy flows across our knees. Relax the knees. Guided by the breath and the relaxation, we send the energy across our thighs, our hamstrings, our glutes. If we notice any tension there, relax the thighs, the hamstrings, the glutes. Our hips remind us of our joy, and so we send the energy and the breath there, the knowing that all is well there. Relax the hips. Surrender into your joy. And from the base of the spine, we feel a tingle. We feel the energy activated as we allow it to flow inward and upward. Kundalini rising, balancing, opening, allowing. As the breath crosses each chakra, we know that all is well. Energy flows in. Exhale. Allow. In and up. Exhale. Allow. All is well. In and up. Exhale, allow. In and up. Exhale, allow. All is well as I breathe in. All is well as I exhale and allow. The flow now moves in through my spine and out the crown of my head. Feeling that connection, sensing the energy above us, connecting us all. All is well right here and now. And now we give permission for the energy to flow back down through the crown, across our third eye, activating our throat, moving across our shoulders and down our arms, out our fingertips. In your mind and experience, imagine a completely open channel. Go ahead and scan the body one last time as we prepare for our silence. If you notice any tension, send the breath there. You may choose to turn the palms up to receive more all is well, or turn the palms down to ground into this energy and remain connected either way. I will monitor the time. If the mind wanders, it's okay. When you become aware of the thoughts and of the breath, bring them both back with a deep inhalation and the affirmation, all is well. All is well in my life. All is well in my world. All is well all around me, here and now. Enjoy your meditative time, and I will see you on the other side. With our eyes still closed, we notice and are grateful for the breath and for the time we've given ourselves. With our eyes still closed, we check in with our body and see that it is relaxed in a way that it wasn't prior. With our eyes still closed, we remember that all is well, right where we are in our experience. Let's begin to make our return now. A nice, easy, gentle return. Maybe we just elongate the breath for now, sending it low into the belly, allowing it to fill up the rib cage and up through the heart, sending the breath wherever we need it to go. Maybe we now wiggle our fingers and our toes. That subtle movement begins to activate the body in a new way. Not from strain or stress, but from ease. Maybe we plant the palms on the tops of the thighs, which again realigns the spine and allows the shoulders to relax. That subtle contact with the tops of the thighs. Maybe we begin to wake the knees or the shins and the calves. Nice gentle movement. Stop the movement, but continue the easy breath. Bring the palms together at heart center and bow the chin to the fingertips. You'll notice a nice, easy, gentle elongation of the spine, base of the neck, and all the while the breath is flowing, signaling us that all is well, even in our activation, even in our waking. Slowly flutter the eyes open, taking in a point in front of you, whether on the floor or directly in front. No strain on the eyes, nice gentle gaze. Inhale, raise the chin. Raise the gaze. Exhale. Namaste.
Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
It is always good to meditate. I'm grateful that we are able to have this experience at least once a week. I always encourage you, come back to this video, use it throughout the week. Also, there are other meditation experience videos that you can grab from our YouTube channel that you can watch and use that for your daily meditation. So we are at the moment of our service where we get to hear from Soul 21 and hear a powerful song or message in song. And we are also in a new month, which means we are beginning a new message series this month, and still I'm grateful. We are going to use this time, the 3 Sundays that we have together this month, of course, inspired by the fact that we have the holiday of Thanksgiving this month, looking at gratitude in some new ways, deepening our understanding of gratitude, and I'll share more in today's message. So let's hear from Soul 21, and then we'll get into the message.
Yes, yes. This is a formula, y'all. See, the easy thing to do is when life starts to get a little scary or get a little crazy, we say, why is this happening to me? What's going wrong? But if you recognize that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transmuted into something new, when you bless it, that's what you're doing. You're changing the energy into that which you desire. So 21, can we sing our lives?
Yes, yes, yes. I bless it. Let God take control. We remember that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but only transformed and transmuted into something new, into a new frequency. And when you understand that, that is then when the problems show up, you can bless them because you understand that the blessing is actually the transforming. This song is a perfect song to support us in understanding gratitude in a new way, to living in this posture that this series is going to support us in sitting in, and still I'm grateful. So grateful for that song, so grateful for Soul 21. But I don't want to use up too much time talking about that song. I want to get into the sermon. Good morning again. Hello. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you. It's so good to have you here with us. So as I shared briefly just before the song, that this month's series, And Still I'm Grateful, is going to help us in looking at gratitude in some new ways throughout this month. And, you know, PY and I, as we were discussing the sermon series for this month and which direction we wanted to go in, both of us sort of separately were like, another gratitude series. And, we have a lot of series. We talk about gratitude all the time, right? When I reflect over the 8, almost 9 years of CSC, we've talked about gratitude a lot. In fact, if you go back to March of this year, the third part of our Deep Roots series, a very critical and sort of anchoring series for us this year, Deep Roots, pray, meditate, appreciate, and rest, right? Appreciation and gratitude, same thing. And one of the heart of that series was saying that these 4 things are things that we must practice, particularly as we are still in a pandemic, particularly as there's still lots of unknowns and there's lots of confusion. We must pray, we must meditate, we must appreciate, and we must rest. And in that sermon on gratitude or appreciation, the sermon was having is the secret. And what did I share in that sermon? I shared something, a quote from Dr. Amy Gordon. She's a research scientist at the University of California, San Francisco. She says that gratitude is a powerful way to boost well-being. And the times when it feels hardest to practice gratitude, that may be when you get the most out of it. And I was quoting an article that she was interviewed for, and in that article, it also shared that there's a growing body of research that links regular doses of gratitude to better sleep, greater happiness, and possibly even lower blood pressure. Now, while this is true, much of what we have learned about being grateful doesn't allow us to experience the spiritual power of gratitude. So this month, we're going to drop a few layers deeper in our understanding and practice of gratitude. But in order to fully grasp the spiritual power of gratitude, there are some things we must unlearn, right? If we're talking about deepening, so often, we want to go deep. We want to go to the deep truths. We want the secrets. We want the mysteries. Well, in order to get to that place, that deepening, what we actually have to do is then dig. Right? And in digging, we're removing dirt. We're removing everything that's standing in front of the deeper layer or the deeper truth. So in this case, there's some things that we must unlearn that I just want to touch on briefly. What must we unlearn? One, we must unlearn the idea that gratitude is transactional. We also must unlearn the idea that gratitude is about kindness and courtesy. And there's this scene that's been playing out in my mind so often. It's something that I heard growing up as a child. It's something that I've said to my daughter as she was growing up. It's something that I've observed other parents do, right? We teach our children, and we learned as children to say thank you from a transactional perspective, right? Your grandparents give you a birthday gift. What do you say? Right? We're teaching kids how to say thank you, right? Someone gives you something, someone pays you a compliment as a child, and we want to create kind, courteous beings, right? We want to create nice beings. And so there's that thing, what do you say? And they say thank you, right? Eventually they learn. And part of that is just creating decent humans, right? Part of that is just creating kind, courteous humans. But unfortunately, part of that has taught us this transactional relationship with gratitude, right? It also goes into, maybe you didn't have this experience, but I definitely did. If you didn't finish all the food on your plate, right? And that was considered being ungrateful, right? And so again, there's this transactional thing of, someone made this food for you. You're not grateful because you're not eating this thing that you really may not enjoy, or you may just be full, right? And so it reinforced this, or created this idea of gratitude being transactional. Now that was also reinforced in our spiritual life, right? Because it seems that no matter what your spiritual tradition is, our relationship to God was also, and gratitude was also reinforced with this transactional nature, because it was taught as a bargaining chip that we heard in prayers prayed by adults, and even in pop culture. Like I can think of so many incidences on TV, right? For me, growing up in the 80s, like, Different Strokes and shows like that, where, somebody like Arnold would do something that he was going to get in trouble for, and you would pray to God, oh God, please help me not get in trouble. And if you answer my prayer, I'll be so grateful, right? God, if you get me out of this predicament, I will be so grateful. God, if you do this thing for me, I will be so grateful, or I will live a certain type of life, right? And so we learned in our spiritual life and in our spiritual world, this misuse of gratitude, making gratitude transactional, but also equating gratitude to niceties and kindness, right? All of that is transactional. And then what do? We transferred that to our romantic relationships. We transferred that to our friendships, right? Many of us, if we're honest with ourselves, it may not be the truth now, but in the past, you've had transactional friendships that was rooted in this transactional sense of gratitude. Definitely in our romantic relationships. Definitely oftentimes in our careers, even when we're at a restaurant or at the grocery store. And what's interesting to me, this is where one of the powerful truths about gratitude that we talk about often and learn here at CSC is so important. The idea that gratitude is not for God. And that was reinforced in working with the law. You can go back to the Appreciation Appreciates sermon. And then also you can go to looking at our Spiritual Economics series, or last year to the Thrive series, where Eric Butterworth also speaks about this idea that God doesn't require our praise. So this whole idea of, God, if you do this for me, then I will be thankful, then I will be grateful. That's actually a misunderstanding of the nature of God and a misunderstanding of our relationship to God. And so then if we don't have and don't have to have a transactional relationship with God, then that also means we don't have to have that for each other. Why is that true? Because we are human beings, not human doings. Right? And so if you're limiting the people in your life and the places in your life based to their doings, and because of their doings, I'm grateful for you, because of your doings, I say thank you, no human will ever do the right thing, which is the right thing in your eyes, 100% of the time. And so if this is a litmus test for your gratitude, you could never be grateful for anyone or in your life for any reason. But again, we understand how we got here. Right? That how we made that association even from a child that, oh, gratitude is transactional, right? And it's not. And so this we must unlearn. And it is this new understanding that allows us to drop a few layers deeper in our understanding and practice of gratitude. So now that we have removed some of the dust and dirt, let's say it's like we had this beautiful treasure chest that we just dug up and we're blowing off the dust and the dirt, and now we can open up the lid of our consciousness. What have we revealed? What lies beneath our old way of thinking and our old way of being? Well, as I said earlier, gratitude is not kindness and courtesy. It's not niceties. It's not moral living, right? But if it's not that, then what is it? You can write this down. Gratitude is spiritual power. Gratitude is not transactional. Gratitude is not for God. Gratitude is not kindness and courtesy. But gratitude is spiritual power. Just like you think of prayer as spiritual power, just as you think of visualization as spiritual power, just as you think of affirmation or speaking the words as spiritual power, just as you think of forgiveness as spiritual power, gratitude is also spiritual power. If you're with me, let me see a yes, a thumbs up, any kind of emoji, a heart, whatever you want to do, because we are going to tap into this powerful realization and new way of seeing and being what gratitude is. Gratitude is spiritual power. It's not something nice to do. It's not some kindness. It's not some spiritual checkbox, right? It's not something that spiritual people do, but it in it of itself is spiritual power. The spiritual power of gratitude is powered by law. And one expression of this law is the law of non-resistance. Now we understand the law of non-resistance. What you resist persists. So don't resist. We understand that principle. What you resist persists. It gets stronger, it gets louder, it gets bigger. And so the law of non-resistance is teaching us not to resist. So I want to take you to the text, Working with the Law by Raymond Hollowell, and chapter 8, which is the chapter on the law of non-resistance. And there's something he writes here that's beautiful, that's going to help us understand gratitude in a new way as spiritual power. Some people, unwise to nature's method, When they meet an obstacle, they stop their progress and collect their forces and put up a fight to remove it. This resistance they set up causes friction. Friction causes an irritation and an inflammation. For this reason, many people's lives are hard and exhausting. The waste of human energy is appalling. People in every walk of life are breaking down and wearing out like obsolete machinery. Remember, it is not the movement of a machine that wears it beyond use and service. It is friction. He has that word in all caps. Friction is opposition and resistance. If we go through life fighting, opposing, resisting, arguing, we are bound to meet with obstacles and likely become so occupied fighting them that we lose sight of our real objective. If we are always getting steeled for the next opposition or trouble, we can expect plenty of it. Whereas if we strive to make a little of the obstacle and keep our minds on the objective or the desire we set out to gain, we may have to wind around and around, but if we persevere, we will ultimately win. We will reach the goal. Now, what I know to be true is that just the reading of that passage has already hit someone profoundly. I know that just the reading of that passage has already opened up something in your mind and allowed you to see a situation differently and think about your approach to it differently. But let's hear what he said. Resistance causes friction. They stop their progress to collect their forces and put up a fight to remove it. This resistance then sets up causes friction. Now, this is interesting, right? Because resistance causes friction. Yes, something unwanted happens and shows up. Unwanted news, unwanted experiences, unwanted diagnoses, unwanted setbacks, unwanted disappointments, unwanted encounters, unwanted breakups, unwanted failures. In those moments, it seems hard to access gratitude. But this is why daily practice is so very important. So very important. Because you build up a reservoir of truth that you can call upon during the crisis. It reminds me of a quote that I love by Doug Copeland, who says, if you don't have a spiritual practice in place when times are good, you can't expect to suddenly develop one during a moment of crisis. Now, I said we're deepening the layer here, so I'm operating from an assumption that you already have a daily gratitude practice. But if you find yourself in this place where it seems incredibly difficult to practice gratitude or to access the spiritual power that we're talking about now, it may be that it's time to begin a daily spiritual practice and include gratitude. Your 5 minutes of writing in your daily spiritual practice should be writing gratitudes. And again, also reading something that's spiritually impactful. Why? Because what you're doing is you're making deposits. As I said, you're building up your reservoir of truth. And then what happens, it's so instinctual. There are things you don't even realize that you've deposited in yourself. But then the unwanted comes up again. Unwanted news, experiences, setbacks, disappointments, encounters, breakups, failures. Those things show up. But now you have something to reach to. You have something to call on because you filled yourself up. And so this is why when times are good, you must have a daily spiritual practice, right? So often people only go to their practice during crisis. And so we recognize that when we don't have that practice, then what many people do is what he says here. They collect their forces and put up a fight to remove it. But this is not spiritually wise, and this is not spiritual power. Why? Because he goes on, he says, friction causes an irritation and an inflammation. Wow. This resistance to what's happening, and I want to be clear, right? Because all of this stuff works together. Now, I know some of y'all may have been dancing and clapping in your homes as you were listening to the song, I Bless It. Right? But now it's time to practice this, right? Because when you don't operate in this idea of I bless it, I let God take control. As I bless it, I watch the blessings flow. The opposite of that is this thing where you're living in and creating friction because you're like, this shouldn't be happening. I don't want this. This shouldn't be happening. I don't want this. This shouldn't be happening. I don't want this. But they were wrong. This shouldn't be happening. But I don't want this. But how can I be thankful? How can I be grateful? How can I be thankful? We're not asking you to be thankful for it, but we're asking you to access your grateful heart in the midst of it. Because when you don't do that, that means you're in resistance. That means that you're creating friction. And what does it do? It wears you down. Not the other person, not the politician or politicians that you're mad at or government, not the institution or institutions that did you wrong, not the person that lied to you or lied on you. It wears you down. And so this is why I say gratitude is spiritual power. I've seen something happen over and over again. I've seen this in various activist communities. For those of you that don't know, I work within an activist community. I work with a global, an international human rights organization. And when your perspective is skewed, right? And when your perspective is in this space of pushing against and resisting, what begins to happen is you see it actually take a toll on folks' mental well-being, right? This is why we constantly talk about being well, not woke, right? I encourage you to go back to that series. Anyone that's hearing this now and you're like, but what about the injustice and what about all these things? We've actually talked about that. The Well Not Woke series really takes you through that, inspired by Casey Gerald's powerful essay, right? And so there's a way to operating from wellness make change in the world. But first and foremost, you have to be well. And what I know to be true is that this resistance will only create friction, and friction leads to irritation and inflammation. And I love also what he says here. Is not something that we think about. People in every walk of life are breaking down and wearing out like obsolete machinery. Remember, it is not the movement of a machine that wears it beyond use and service. It's friction. And so, see, some of us think, wrongfully so, that life wears you down. Life in and of itself, life is God. God in and of itself cannot wear you down, right? That's a misstatement, right? And an untruth. But our approach to life can wear us down. And this is why gratitude is a spiritual power, because gratitude is the thing that can support us in living differently and having a different experience even in our physical body. So it makes sense, as I said earlier, why there's a growing body of research that says regular doses of gratitude leads to better sleep, greater happiness, and possibly even lower blood pressure. It's echoing this very thing that Raymond Hollowell is showing us here. That we wear ourselves down with resistance. But gratitude, the spiritual power of gratitude, is what can support us in creating change while also being non-resistant. So you see now why and how this is possible. So often people want to, tout these ideas. Oh, you can heal yourself with your mind, and oh, you can do all of these things, right? Yeah, but do you understand how and why that's possible? Because you're not living in this state of friction that causes irritation and inflammation, right? We've talked about it many times. I think even Florence Scovel-Shinn in our masterclass earlier this year, this idea that unforgiveness will manifest in our bodies, can manifest in our bodies, I should say, right? And so all of that unforgiveness is non-resistance, and it is taking ourselves out of gratitude. And so Raymond Hollowell, later in the chapter, he goes on to write, as we understand the spiritual power of gratitude, what is it doing and what are we doing? And he writes, to extend a loving thought to anyone or anything removes the opposition and enmity that once seemed there. This removal must first be in the person's consciousness. So again, this is why gratitude is spiritual power and why it's for you. This is why you must develop a grateful heart and a grateful mind, even in the midst of the storm. That's what leads to a grateful life. To extend the loving thought removes the opposition. And then once the thought of enmity is removed from your consciousness, by law, you will not attract the same condition again. Why? Because thoughts attract things. Like attracts like. And so whatever we're attracting, it's related to our state of being. So we practice gratitude, the spiritual power of gratitude, to stay in the state of being, the frequency, the vibration that matches what it is that we want. He goes on, do good to them that hate you, because in doing good, you are raised above the thought of hate, and hate then cannot touch your life. Bless them that curse you, and pray for them that misuse you. Why? Blessings call forth the highest good within you. The highest good within you can only attract the highest good from another. To attract such good, you are running around all opposition and abuse. Thus, to live the law with others about you does not especially favor the others so much as it favors you. Gratitude is spiritual power. Again, we just heard the song and we celebrated the song. But what is the spiritual truth under the song? When we're singing, I bless it. Speak well of all things. Speak love to all things. And watch your life change. Yes. Watch the miracle take place because you're practicing this spiritual power. You're making deliberate use of it. You're not in the kindness of it. You're not in the I'm being courteous. You're not in the I'm trying to be a nice person. We're beyond that, right? We're beyond that. When I was a child, I acted as a child. I spake as a child. But now that I'm a grown person, I wanted to say something else. I put away childish things. So yes, we understand to be nice. We understand to say thank you at the grocery store or at a restaurant, right? We understand to say thank you to the people in our lives, right? We understand that. Yes. And again, if you have not yet developed a deliberate daily practice of that, I encourage you to start that immediately. Right? And I encourage you to start that immediately because I understand that all this other stuff can and will happen in your life, right? We can't avoid unwanted things showing up in our lives. But what we have 100% control of is our approach to those things, our response, what is happening within our very selves. Now, in this chapter, Raymond Hollowell, he tells the story of a woman who needed to pay her mortgage. And, because she needed money, initially what she did was she converted her home to a rooming house. And it says she converted it to a rooming house, hoping to get money enough to live on, but there was difficulty. She could not keep her roomers because they were so quarrelsome and critical. The house was always in an uproar. No one was content, and she was ill in mind from the strain and anxiety. I can imagine, and I know many of you are property owners and have tenants, and for those of you who don't, you can just imagine like how difficult that must be, right? And how difficult it would be to practice gratitude for that thing. But that's not the teaching. The teaching is not be grateful for all things. The teaching is to be grateful in all things, right? And so it becomes very difficult even to access, how do I access my grateful heart in the midst of this thing that is causing strain and anxiety? Because I need money to pay my mortgage. I got a bunch of folk in my home and living in my property that are causing all kinds of issues and trouble and an uproar. He goes on in the story to talk about there's one person who always sneaks in the house and avoids her because they owe back rent. And so she was frustrated. But she came to Hollowell for advice, and he told her that she must work with the law. He said, you must use your spiritual power and practice non-resistance. And so it took her some time. It took her some time to begin to do this, to begin to treat these souls differently. But it says she began to make the changes, and she saw her folks in a different light. Instead of thinking them to be cheats, liars, and quarrelsome lot, she saw good in them, and she grew to like them more and more as one big family. It went on, it says, she became non-resistant to the good. She made light of the many obstacles and confusion that appeared and slowly worked around them. She held in mind her objective. This in turn melted down the hardness within herself and then reached others. Though she appeared to be going soft to some, in doing so, she reached her goal and was victorious. Now, one of the reasons why I love this story is that on its surface and at face value, you would say, but this is not about gratitude. But yet it has to be about gratitude, because she had to not only step into a posture in order to treat the folks that were living in her building differently. She had to develop gratitude in the midst of that situation. Gratitude for her home, gratitude that she had a home, that she could provide a home for others, and then gratitude for these souls who were there to provide for her so that she could provide for herself, right? And gratitude, and then as she began to again develop gratitude in the midst of the situation, that later began to transform as gratitude for these souls that she had no gratitude for. The person that was sneaking away from her, eventually he caught on, and he began to shift and change. He got caught up, found a job, and things were a lot better. And so this is an example of the spiritual power of gratitude. Why? Because it's gratitude in action. And this is the heart of what I pray that you get and understand, that gratitude is, again, not about being nice. It's not about being courteous. It's not about being a good person. But gratitude is literally spiritual power when you put it in action in this way. Living with a grateful heart and learning not to respond and learning not to respond to life. Living with a grateful heart and learning to respond to life from the seat of gratitude brings miracles. But here's the thing, you're not expected to get there overnight, right? It may take a little time, but like this woman, if you're clear about and focused on your desired outcome, which should always be harmony, peace, the highest good for all, you will live a life of miracles. So having this daily practice is important. It fills us up. It helps us develop this reservoir, because the unwanted is going to show up. And because we understand spiritual principle, well, I know that although this thing is unwanted, and to be as transparent as I can be right now, I received some news this week that knocked me off my socks. That's real, right? Me being Pastor Greg doesn't absolve me from that. But there was something within me, because I've spent so much time in this knowing and in a certain space, that still allowed me to be able to access gratitude in the midst of this storm. That's a real storm. And so we know that the unwanted shows up, but we also know that if we resist the unwanted, if we fight it, if we organize against it, we're actually empowering it. In the sermon series, Working with the Law, the sermon that I taught from this chapter was Be Like Water. And we actually began this year. I thought it was so important that we begin the year. We went back to that sermon. I replayed that sermon on the first Sunday of this year, because this principle is so incredibly important. And the metaphor of water is great, because every great body of water, a river or an ocean, starts as a little stream. And what we understand about that stream is when that stream comes against an obstacle, although it's very small, it doesn't pull back and then try to hit up against that rock and then pull back and try to hit up against that rock. It just uses, what does Abraham Hicks call it? The path of least resistance. It goes around the rock, it goes over the rock, it goes under the rock, and it keeps going where? Towards its destination, towards that larger river or towards that ocean. And so what's very important for you to understand and to look at when you have the unwanted and you have a feeling, right? An emotion shows up, it doesn't feel good. This is why I love that beautiful lesson from A Course in Miracles. I am never upset for the reason I think, right? I am never in fear for the reason I think. I am never worried for the reason I think. I am never angry for the reason, pissed off for the reason I think, right? It's giving me some information that I can examine. And also what it's doing, Abraham Hicks, it's actually shooting off that rocket of desire because there's something else that I want. And I'm upset, right? And I'm unsettled because I'm not experiencing the thing that I desire to experience. I'm experiencing the contrast of it. I'm experiencing the distance between from where I am and where it is. Well, that gives me information. Because now, from this grateful heart, now understanding the spiritual power that I possess, that's what I keep frontmost in mind. Because I recognize I don't want to live in friction. Many of you may have experienced it in your life. I know I did when I was moving through separation and divorce, and I was living in my rightness. And you could literally see the irritation and inflammation in my countenance, right? In my body, in the way I looked, in the way I felt, right? In my health, right? It was starting to show up in all of those ways. And so when I began to embrace, it's another way of talking about this for our Course in Miracles folks, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And I was able to take that lesson to heart and begin to practice it, recognizing that when I operate in this place of blessing something, I'm elevating myself. I'm operating in also what the Kabbalion calls the law of neutralization, right? Hollowell talked about this idea of right now you can't be touched by the hate and abuse that's being spewed. You're neutralizing it. So I encourage you this week to think from this place. Something unwanted may be in your life now. Something unwanted may show up in your life this week. But know that you have spiritual power. Know that you have been developing your spiritual power. And know, just like the story of this woman, just like stories that you've heard PY and I share over the years, you can shift and change the experience because you shift and change yourself. And so with that, I say amen, ashe, and so it is.
Ah, yes, yes. We
Yes,
have so
yes.
much fun behind the scenes.
Yes, yes.
Amazing message. This series, as PG said, we were independently thinking about this month and came to the idea of gratitude. It's so important. I had recently an experience where the old Yolanda would have been in her story about it, in her resistance about it, but it was like automatically my mind just started going to the things that I'm grateful in this situation. And I was like, what is wrong with you? And then I took a breath and I laughed. I really did. And I said, this gratitude thing works.
Yeah.
What I understand is gratitude is a spiritual mind treatment.
Yep.
It is powerful. We talk about prayer as mind treatment, but gratitude is mind treatment. The moment you engage consistently in this way, not for a few weeks or a few days, of course you got to start somewhere, but over time it just becomes automatic, habitual way to approach any situation. So much so that you surprise yourself.
Yeah.
A few years ago, you'd have been like, oh, wait, you would have been in resistance. I love how PG is talking about it so that we can understand in practical ways the benefit of gratitude.
Yeah.
Because it does impact your immune system when you are in resistance, when you are in fear, doubt, worry, anger, resentment, all of those things. And we want you to live a glorious, easy, joyous, unfolding.
Yeah.
And your approach to life, that was so powerful. Life ain't wearing you down. It's how you approach the situation that we are now calling life
Yeah.
that is wearing us down.
Yeah.
If you've been operating this way, forgive yourself and set yourself free.
Set yourself free.
Non-resistance to even the way you used to be.
There it is. See? Look at it.
Hey,
Spiritual power.
hey.
Spiritual power.
Forgiveness of the way it used to be and opening to the way that it now you want it to be. This series, though short, is powerful and mighty.
Absolutely.
Thank you, PG.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. This will support you in so many ways. And again, as spiritual people, as those that are choosing to practice and approach the world, your life metaphysically, this is incredibly important. And this is why you then don't have to get caught up in a lot of the debates of the world, right? You don't get caught up in a lot of the, what stuff people are doing and planting their flag over here and planting their flag. You don't get caught up in that, right? Because you understand this principle, right? And that's why. And then you be very clear about what it is for you to do. Right. And whatever choice that you make it from a non-resistant place.
Right, you make it from that place of higher knowing.
Yeah.
Which is non-resistant. That place of higher knowing understands and rides above the chaos and sees the harmony in all things.
Yes,
and when you're in that place, any inspired ideas will move you along your path.
Yeah.
Right, you don't have to plant your flag on either side. You just honor and listen to that inspired idea that helps you move in non-resistance, helps you do the inspired thing.
Yeah, I encourage you, for those of you who have the book, Working with the Law, to revisit that chapter 8 on non-resistance, reread it, and I think you'll hear it and read it differently, even from your first reading a couple years ago. So with that, it is time for giving. And of course, we are grateful for your gifts. You've seen the information on your screen throughout the broadcast. It's easy to give to CSC. Just go to celebrationsc.org/give and text. You can text to give. Text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. Most importantly, give what feels good. That is the key to giving. The amount you give ain't gonna bless you more. Right? That's not how it works. That's transactional. Yeah, you see that? Same thing. Oh, if I give God $1,000, then God will bless me 1,000 times. No, that's not how it works, right? Because if you give from a spirit of manipulation, I guarantee you will attract manipulation out in your life and out in the world. And so how do we give? When we say give what feels good, we're giving from a place we're free, we're open. Freely I have received, and so freely I give. In the same way that I inhale and exhale, I'm never thinking about the other billions of people on the planet. Well, let me get my air before they get there. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of, you breathe in and out. You know there's more than enough. You know that there's a cycle. You know that there's a circulation. That's the give what feels good energy. And then just as you always have more than enough breath, you will always have more than enough finances to do the things that you need to do and to do the things that you desire to do. Yeah.
This teachings around gratitude and around giving are so fundamental to retuning your mind around spirituality and around God. It's so fundamental, and it's why it's always been part of what we thought we wanted to bring into the world. Because we've been conditioned to think incorrectly about gratitude and giving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so when we give from this consciousness, then we affirm with joy this affirmation: all the money that I use returns to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle. Of increase. And enjoyment. And so to that we say amen. Ashe. And so it is. Thank you much for joining us. We're so happy that you all joined us this Sunday. For those that were looking for YouTube, we'll look into what happened there, but we'll upload the video on YouTube for those that would still like to watch it later. But more importantly, we look forward to seeing you here again next week. We have the prayer call on Wednesday morning, and we look forward to seeing many of you there. But if not, definitely next week as we continue with this series, And Still I'm Grateful. Have a wonderful day. If you're in New York,
Yes.
go out and celebrate the runners, and we'll see you soon. All right? Bye for now.
Bye for now.